Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Goffstown Sewer Commission. This is a special meeting outside of our regular meeting schedule. We are here to we have an applicant to discuss an item with us. We will have a non-public session at the end of our meeting. The meeting will conclude at the beginning of the non-public. The TV will be shut off at that time, and we will conclude our non-public and just have a motion to go into adjournment after that. So the only televised portion of this meeting will be this session right now. We'll begin with introductions. Corey?
Corey White, sewer foreman.
Lynn Pooler, sewer secretary.
Dave Pierce, Commissioner.
Tim Redmond, Commissioner.
Daniel Taylor, Commissioner.
Mike Trank, Consulting Engineer.
Thank you. Fellas, could you identify yourself for the record, please?
Sure. My name is Jake Dorfler with the DeBay Group.
Okay.
And my name is Ed Monte with Heavily Investment.
Thank you for coming in. We are here this evening to have a presentation from the applicant's engineer regarding the EnviroGrid GeoCell, which is they are proposing for a driveway crossing at a project on Mast Road next to the Shell station. So at this time, if there's any board members, commission members have any questions before we start, of anyone before we hear their presentation? Okay, seeing none, the floor is yours, fellas.
Okay. Again, my name is Jake Dorfler with the DeBay Group, and I'm representing Ed here on the 134 Mast Road development. I guess a little backstory. As you all know, we presented originally two options: a 10% grade access road and an 8% grade access. And we presented that to both the Sewer Commission and the Planning Board. And in the March Planning Board meeting, the consensus of the board seemed to be they would prefer the 8% and they weren't going to be supportive of the 10% grade. So we took that and back to our design board and recalculating for the 8% and the access. And we made some adjustments based off of the rail trail crossing. We had to push our low point back a little bit to make ADA work with the rail trail crossing. So with all those changes, the 8% grade using the concrete slab, which was originally proposed, has less than 2 inches separation between the bottom of the slab and the sewer main.
How thick was the slab you were proposing?
7 inches.
7 inches. Go ahead.
They were prefab slabs, 10 feet by 4.5 feet, 4.5 feet, 7 inches thick.
And what was the thickness of the pavement that was going to be on top of the slab?
4 inches.
Okay, thank you.
And so after seeing how little separation there was, we thought that the slabs would be very heavy on the sewer main. We didn't think that was necessarily the best idea. Plus, the slabs have to be placed level rather than crowned with the road. So that means you're going to have that less than 2 inches all the way across the sewer main. So we shared this.
Explain that statement, why you can't place them level.
No, we have to place them level. They have to be placed level across because they have to interlock
Versus
along the crown.
Why can't you
First of all,
they interlock.
They have to be bolted together. We're going to bolt them together and then we'll pave over the whole thing so that they would be removable in case there was, a time we need to pull them up and not just, if you guys need to maintain your sewer at all.
so your proposal is to put a level, side-to-side level slab across the top of the sewer main with an 8-inch slope on it.
Yes.
And they are bolted together?
They're bolted together, yep.
And you said there's only 2 inches left when you do that with a 7-inch slab?
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
The reason they're prefab slabs because I had spoke to a representative at I think it was Shea, and they were having a hard time giving me something built to suit, and they proposed using a 7-inch propane slab that we would manually bolt together. So that's why we had that size and the thickness and everything. So we shared this information with Mike. He seemed to share our concern with the separation and the possibility of the weight of the slab on the sewer main. Having such little separation, I think we're we're relying a lot on the compaction of the original sewer main, and how the pipe was chinked and everything based off of that. Because any settlement there, then the pipe's going to rest directly on the sewer main, which is obviously not good. So I did some research and I found this EnviroGrid GeoCell product. I read through the technical data. I spoke to the representative in Houston. They're based out of Houston, and I had a long conversation with the technical representative, and it seems like this product matches exactly what we need it for. The product is geared towards unsuitable soil, bogs, anything wet, things that are going to settle a lot. The product itself is 27 feet long, a little over 8 feet wide, and 6 inches thick. And it's made of rigid, high-density polyethylene plastic, and it's a three-dimensional grid. If you look at, I tabbed it out for you. There's a little cross section that you can see, just to see how it looks as far as the three-dimensional shape. So this product will reduce the point load pressure on the sub-base by up to 75%, and then it increases the lateral weight distribution by 2 times the of what the normal typical base would be.
So let me stop right there where you
Sure.
are. You said what about the 75%? Make that statement again.
So the point load pressure, it reduces the deflection by up to 75%. You see
So up to 75%, that means you still have a 25% deflection built into it, correct?
there's potential for that, yes. Yep.
So potentially that material could deflect and push the soil down under the GeoGrid.
Hypothetically, but it's 75%. Let me just retract for a second. It's based off of what a normal sub base would be versus, so if you had, even at the concrete, if that is going to settle, that's going to settle a lot more than, it'd be reduced 75% of what your typical sub base would settle based off.
I don't want to beat the horse right
Yep.
now. I'm going to let you finish your presentation.
No, that's fine.
Please.
Sure? Okay. So the way it's built is, you lay your 6-inch GeoCell, and then you have a 1-inch, they call it an overtop, and that's vibratory rolled and compacted. The 6 inches of this material, 6 inches of this cell will replace 22 inches is equivalent to 22 inches of suitable subgrade. So basically, essentially, it would be, you have 22 inches of subgrade plus your 4 inches of pavement over your pipe.
Basically, but not really.
Well, it replaces it. It's designed to replace, to reduce cover over unsuitable fill, and that's the purpose of the product and how it's compacted. And you put a geosynthetic fabric underneath it, so there's no travel of the stone downward, so it stays in place where it needs to be.
That's a cloth fabric, not anything more rigid.
They propose their specs say a standard just a regular fabric, but there's other, obviously there are other more rigid products.
So let's go back to the cross section now.
Sure.
We talked about having a 7-inch, 7 and 4 for for concrete slab, right? You said 7 inches was the concrete slab, or
Yeah.
was that the
Yes.
GeoCell?
No, they're both the same.
So you're going to still end up with 2 inches of material under the GeoCell on top of the pipe,
That's correct.
and you're only saying there's a 75% reduction. It's whatever you say,
It'll reduce the point load down
by
by
75%.
75%.
So it's still going to put point load down, and you only have a 2-inch cushion between the bottom of the GeoCell and the top of the pipe.
Correct.
And you think that's better than a concrete slab?
I do. I don't know for sure what a 10 by, I say it was a 10 by 4.5 foot concrete slab weighs, but it's quite significant.
Well, wouldn't that concrete slab have to be properly footed on both ends without concrete? In other words, some 3044 gravel or something compacted to just 100% compaction? So the slab is bearing on two, if you will, gravel footings on both sides?
I think the idea was we were trying to avoid any impact to around the pipe, to leave that in natural state.
Well, you really can't with 2 inches of material on top of the pipe. You're gonna have,
I was assuming you'd fully put new material under the slabs.
The slabs can't-
Compacted.
the slabs couldn't possibly bear on the fill that's on both sides of the pipe right now.
I still think that you would be relying on, even with that, the compacted gravel, you're still relying on the fact, you know, that weight of the concrete's not gonna sink that at all.
Have you, you ever consider a foundation wall on either end of the slabs?
I think that's actually worse, Dave, because that provides a span, if you will.
Okay.
And then the span, you could have, the concrete could fail in the middle and it would buckle center down. But if you have compacted gravel within a certain radius or distance of each side of the pipe, you're going to have a wide bearing area on both sides of the pipe to carry the slab. Daniel, you're not weighing in. Okay. Well, I'm not convinced that the numbers you're presenting and the information from GeoGrid is as good as a concrete slab. I'm not convinced.
Okay.
Because concrete does not deflect. GeoGrid will deflect under the weight of the vehicles.
It just, I mean, it also disperses, I mean, we're going 27, it's dispersing the weight 27 feet out. It's over a 27 foot length on this pad. So I mean, there's gonna,
Explain mechanically how that works, because I envision the cell as some flexibility in the vertical direction from its neighbors, all the individual cells.
At the point load where the tires are going to drive over it.
but so it presses down into the cell, and the weight of the point load pushes out on the geocell, rather than it flexes horizontally rather than vertically. So it pushes it out, and then they're all connected up, and they're all pushed out at the same rate outward.
This is all theory in my eyes. This is not anything that you can demonstrate to us at this point.
I mean, they have obviously lots of, technical data on that, but
GeoCell, in my recollection, was designed exactly for what you said it was, boggy areas, to support the loads of vehicles over unstable subgrades. This is not an unstable subgrade. This is a definitive separation between two things, the bottom of the GeoCell and the top of the sewer main. We cannot risk any deflection in that product that has a downward push on top of that pipe. It's not even possible to consider that.
okay. I'm gonna reach out to them to see if they have any other data that.
Well, I thought that's what we were getting tonight, because I was led to believe that we were going to have a GeoCell representative here to possibly answer technical questions for us, if it was even possible. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they're based out of Houston, and they're relatively small, so I don't, that wasn't an option.
I think one thing that might be helpful is if they have case studies of a similar installation that they could point to or send to us.
Okay, I mean, I read through a lot of their case studies, and a lot of the case studies do represent more of the unsuitable fill kind, but I can dig and see, or I'll probably call them, because I've read through all the ones they have on their website, so to see if they have something that is more suitable for this application.
Yeah, I think, the question is whether in their mind they would feel confident that this would be
when I
suitable application.
When I
This
when I
specific-
spoke to the technical woman in Houston, and I explained the project exactly, I go, we're basically going to be directly on top of a sewer main, and she was like, yep, the 6-inch geogrid, not a problem. She was very confident that this would do exactly what we needed to do.
I'd like to go back, I'm sorry, you want to say something?
Yeah, so I did a little research and onto the product, our sewer pipe that's in the ground. And everything that I've read indicated that it was recommended that there was 12 inches of fill above the pipe minimum to the bottom of a flexible surface, or 12 inches total to the top of a rigid surface. So concrete would be rigid,
Yeah.
asphalt surface flexible. And then the question that I have is, like, when you consider that, what is the EnviroGrid? Is it a flexible?
Obviously, yeah, I mean, it is a rigid, rigid plastic, but yeah, I mean, it's designed for, yeah.
So the EnviroGrid still moves, but now there's only.
There's less.
Would it be considered? I don't know. It's in a gray area, like, because it moves. It's not rigid. There's only 2 inches to the bottom of that.
Right. I mean, so if we had, I mean, the product replaces replaces 20 or equivalent to 22 inches of sub base. Is that an acceptable cover over, like, in this particular?
We don't have that information for you, because we don't have vehicle traffic over it at this time. It's a driveway
Right.
for the applicant's property.
Right.
I'd like to go back to your original drawings that we were supplied with back when Doug came in.
Yep.
He showed us an 8% profile and a 10% profile on this page right here. I
Yep.
have it with me. Now, at this time, you're stating that your 8% grade is going to, with 4 inches of pavement, 7 inches of geogrid or concrete, comes up, that's 11 inches, plus 2 inches of fill on top of the pipe is a total of 13 inches. Am I correct in that statement?
Yes.
Doug's original plan showed us we had 1.38 feet of proposed material above the sewer pipe. Now that, in my mind, is 16 inches. There's a differential here of 3 inches.
So there was some adjustments based off of the entry that shifted our low point and shifted where our 8% started back into the access road. So that caused our grade to be lower on top of the sewer pipe.
Well, one of the reasons why we considered this was because you had pretty good fill over the pipe to begin with, that 1.38 on one profile and 2.2 on the other profile, the 10% profile. I'm a little concerned that we have that discrepancy that is coming forward now with 2 inches of fill on top of the pipe. I don't want to see this project not happen because of this issue, but we're shaving it too close with using GeoGrid with 2 inches of material between the top of the pipe and the bottom of the GeoGrid. I mean, this 2 inches right there. And if the pipe gets damaged and we approve a product, we're on the hook because we approve the product. And I'm not going to be on the hook, personally. And I'm also a little bit, don't understand why the slabs can't be crowned for the road. Slabs, I'm sure they can form them with tapered edges so that they would have a tapered joint to bolt them together. They can build anything in a form they want.
Right, no, I mean, when I spoke to the staff at Shea, he basically said he gave me a sheet of 6 different propane pads, and he says, those are your options.
Then maybe you should call Mitchie Corp and see what Mitchie Corp can do for you.
I did call Mitchie Corp, and they didn't, I explained the situation, what we had, and they said, oh, I don't know, we don't really have anything like that. They were very unhelpful, to be honest.
So I worked for a precaster before, in Maine. We did custom projects all the time. For example, roadway slabs, we do match casting, where you pour one slab with a key in it, and then you pour the next slab right up against it, so it has that literally perfect joint.
Is that in place, or?
No,
precast.
no, precast. And that was for bridge, but I would think that they'd be able to provide a custom project.
We can go back to them and talk, but I mean, like I said, I talked to Shay, and, you know, maybe it wasn't Mitchie that I spoke to, maybe it was Phoenix.
Phoenix, yeah.
But still, they didn't seem to have anything or be able to create anything. So, and then Shay came back and said, these are your best options.
Well, I'm gonna open it up to board members for comment right now. Or opinions. And I'll leave it up to Mike and Corey as well, because you're both participating in this discussion.
I just want to point out, part of the reason why this is so tough is because it's not just a sewer main. It empties this whole half of the town. It's on a
Yeah.
high flow day, you're talking 1.5 million gallons, and there's no off in wastewater.
Right.
Anything happens to that pipe, it's backing up, it's blowing out everywhere. So we have to come up with something that's going to ultimately protect that, because that can't happen.
Right. No, we understand that concern.
Mike?
Well, you know, I think the bottom line is that we need to come up with a way that's going to, or a method that's going to minimize the deflection. It's PVC pipe, so it's flexible by definition. The plastic pipe has no inherent structural strength. It derives its strength from from deflecting against the back or the bedding material, which in this case is crushed stone, as far as we know, and then sand and the bedding for the backfill. So it's got the best case scenario for bedding. It's got a Class A bedding. So, I mean, it's designed to deflect. So my point is that what we come up with needs to be something that will minimize deflection. The pipe manufacturers will tell you that 7.5% deflection is allowable. We generally like to limit it to 5, but 7.5 certainly in the eyes of the pipe manufacturers would be acceptable. So the question is, will this, whatever we put on top of it, keep that deflection to a minimum? And that can be tested. You can actually test what you have now. You can run a mandrel through it and actually measure if there's any deflection and
The
what
pipe
it
is
is.
truly round at this time.
Yeah, it should be. It should be. But you can test that with a mandrel. And then, following or subsequent to any construction that happens, that could be tested again with a mandrel to see if there's any deflection and what that deflection is. So I think the bottom line is it's got to be something that will minimize the deflection of the pipe.
One thing, with like the 5% or 7.5% deflection, is that under static load?
I think that's what it is.
Because also you have to consider
That's a good question.
dynamic loading and if the subbase shifts, if it deflects a small amount every time there's a large dynamic load, over time it can add up.
It's a good question.
And so that would be a benefit of the concrete versus flexible
Jay,
geos.
can the crown of the road be achieved through the asphalt layer?
Well, it would be if we, had to lay the slabs level across the road. So that extra, it would be extra pavement there in the middle. I just wanted to ask, I don't know if you have the information in front of you, but for Tetro Drive, is that, what do we have for cover over the sewer on that?
Don't know, I was thinking the same question myself. We may have to investigate that, find out what the cover is
We
based
have
on the elevation inside the pipe.
There's a manhole on Table Drive.
Yeah, those
It's easy to measure the invert.
And then, is for construction access, is it through Tetro or is it gonna
No,
be?
it's not.
Yes.
It'll be,
So, how do you take into consider, what would be the, I don't know, order of operations for putting in
that,
this and keeping it protected?
that would be one of the last steps. Like the construction traffic would go over, I think there's a, I don't know the exact percentage for the existing driveway, but it would go over a higher percentage grade so that the trucks, there was a lot more separation from.
So you wouldn't be potentially damaging this?
Correct.
You'd be using the existing driveway,
what is
which
the
has a,
What is the existing cover right now? Ballpark by your elevations you shot. We got about 2 minutes left.
Okay.
We're stopping at 6:30.
So the grade there now is roughly, what is this? You have, let's see where it go. You have at least a foot or more.
And that's not even enough. You can't run, a regular HDPE pipe needs more than a foot of cover for construction traffic on it. You know, the polyethylene pipe we all put underground every day for road work.
I mean, those are rated for, ADS's website, those are rated for a foot of cover.
They are rated for a foot of cover.
Yeah.
Okay, and you'll warranty our sewer pipe for the entire duration of your construction project.
No, I won't.
I know you won't, that's why I'm throwing this at you.
No.
You may want to consider steel plating that whole area for construction traffic as a temporary measure to help deflect or build it up even higher,
Yeah.
something to that effect.
That was talked about.
But we would want some sort of a certification from the engineers and the developer that the pipe would not be damaged during construction. We can do pre and post-construction testing, make sure it gets checked, and if it is damaged, it's going to be on you guys prior to the installation of the H20 loading product. You may want to put the H20 loading product in first and then mount material up over it, and then move the material when you're ready to pave. In my corner of this discussion, I do not want GeoGrid. I want a concrete engineering solution worked out for this, because concrete will not flex. We can talk about the weight of the concrete, fine, but the concrete could be planted firmly on compacted 304.4 gravel, state spec gravel, that is compacted 100%, then I would be happy to know that you can put a slab on that and it's not going to settle. We might have to do some testing to make sure that we don't have unsuitables down there too. Because we don't know if there's unsuitables on either side of that pipe. Who knows what happened when they went through there and dug that and put that thing.
Put the trench in.
We might have to have some core sampling done to make sure that we have virgin ground at so many feet down, or bedrock or something to that effect. So,
And say it's unlikely that you've got unsuitable material with the sewer trench.
I don't know, it's an old railroad bed. You know, they built railroads 100 years ago. Who knows what they put in a railroad bed?
And that's probably, in that case, even less likely that you have unsuitable.
Well, I would hope so, but I wouldn't take the chance on not knowing.
That particular area does not have a dramatically high embankment of a rail bed. In the areas where we have 5, 6, or even 70-foot high embankments, they're sand, just piles of sand.
Okay, quick answer from other commissioners. I'm in the concrete. I'm in concrete.
I'm not convinced about geotech being suitable. cellular
Not
material.
Yeah.
Mike?
I guess I'm on the fence.
Corey?
I'm not convinced.
Okay. So I think we'd like to see a concrete solution. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'd like your motion for non-public, and then we will adjourn the meeting, post after the non-public is completed.
Motion to enter into non-public session in accordance with RSA 91-A:3, Roman 2A. Deals with compensation, and also 91A2, parentheses B, which deals with hiring.
I'll second Dave's motion. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Motion passes.